FARA and the patient community have not only shaped the future and the path for Friedreich ataxia research development, but we are the path for FA research and development in that we have created all the assets that we believe our industry partners need to succeed. I'd say the most important lesson in building trust with the regulators about the reliability of the assets that I've described is that we built our whole organization on the trust of our patient community. They trust us, we trust them, and they have worked very closely with us and we with them in terms of developing the assets that these industry partners and the regulators need. So one wonderful illustration of that is that the natural history study that we started 24 years ago was not started as a natural history study. It was started because we needed clinical outcome measures, our endpoints. And so we gathered our 10 best clinicians and to meet with 14 of our patients, and those patients devoted that day in 2004, I believe it was, and then another full day at the NIH 18 months later to be examined by those 10 clinicians, and those examinations led to our clinical outcome measure. It's called the Friedreich Ataxia Rating Scale, and that rating scale became slightly modified by the FDA. It became the modified Friedreich Ataxia Rating Scale, and that's our primary endpoint for almost all of our clinical trials. And the beauty there is that in developing that outcome measure, we developed a natural history study because we had clinicians all over the world begin to examine those patients with the same examinations, developing the same data sets that constituted our clinical outcome measure, our primary endpoint for all of our clinical trials. And at the same time, those data were logged in by the same clinicians who are well trained together to conduct those examinations, and those data obviously reflect the endpoint, and they also constitute a natural history study that is identical to our clinical outcome measure. So we can now interpose that natural history study on our clinical trials and say, as we did with our first and only approved treatment on Rare Disease Day of 2023, a natural history comparator in which we take the same number of closely matched patients from the natural history study without intervention, because there wasn't any, with the same number of closely matched patients in the open label extension to demonstrate to the FDA and to our world that that drug in particular, omaveloxolone, or now called Skyclarys, was slowing the progression in that across the 3 years of that natural history study, of that open label extension. It clearly slowed the progression in the patients that were in the open label extension on drug compared to the same number of carefully matched patients not on anything in our natural history study. So that equivalence of the natural history data with the clinical outcome measure has been a magical transformation of our whole community and led to our first approved treatment. And I'll add that those natural history data would not have been as well known to the FDA and to our drug companies had it not been for the fact that we were an early enrollee in the RDC-ADAP platform. And because we became so active with RDC-ADAP, and knowing that the FDA was funding RDC-ADAP and believed in it, when we didn't have to wait until we went in with that company, with that application for our first approval. We'd been already having listening sessions with key FDA officials, including office directors and their reviewers and their biostatisticians, who knew and were able to say to us that this is the largest natural history study in this disease in the world. And after several conversations with the reviewers and with the biostatisticians, with the office director, we didn't have to wait till we went in with the applicant. They've been going over these data for several years, knowing how they developed a sense of reliability of those data. And so when that application went in and the additional data from natural history, external comparator, comparing natural history with that open label extension, the net result was that when the FDA announced its approval of our first treatment, the director of the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research was able to announce that it was because FARA's natural history data was you get me choked up again. It was a regulatory grade, which permitted them to make reliably a decision to approve our first treatment. Well, one of the biggest challenges has been historically having reliable natural history data. And I'll answer that part of the question first, and I'll quote Martin Luther King and say, I have a dream. And that dream is that putting your natural history data on the RDC ADAP constitutes two things. One is that it's your entry point into demonstrating that you have, in standardized format, registration grade natural history data. And secondly, that it would permit the FDA to become familiar with those data and know that they're reliable and be able to check with you over the years that the data become available, so that when it comes time to apply for approval, they are comfortable with the reliability of those data. And so that was the first way. When we get those natural history data on the platform, it becomes a powerful step in the direction of becoming considered to be registration quality, regulatory grade natural history data. The other is that the other part of my dream is we would fulfill the other aspect of the RDC ADAP mission, and that is to have sufficient natural history data from multiple diseases, not just rare but common, so that we can learn from each other. The ontology studies that are being conducted by RDC ADAP personnel, I think can be a powerful incentive if we get more and more diseases onto the platform, that we actually can learn from each other. We can learn from, one disease, an outcome measure that might work in our disease. We might learn from one symptom of another rare disease that's shared with our disease. Okay, well, let's look for what other similarities occur. Maybe there's a genetic component, that maybe there's a protein component, maybe there's a treatment pathway. So that, in my view, that's the twofold mission of RDC ADAP is to consolidate in standardized format, high quality natural history data. The other is that we use those data across diseases to learn from each other and accelerate development, research and development across all those diseases.